of President of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of your ability,
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
I'm sorry for the repetition, but a little.
If you listen closely, you will hear part of the President's inaugural speech.
Vice President Johnson, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chief Justice, President Eisenhower, Vice President Nixon, President Truman, Reverend clergy, fellow citizens. We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs
Like you wanted to do something.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the reason I called was I couldn't go to bed tonight unless I had the opportunity to make sure your audience had heard the statistic, the historical statistic about approval rating for presidents. Did you guys hear that today or hear about it?
No, we did not.
This blew me away. The historical approval rating for Clinton was, at this time in history, 74%. Pretty good. President Reagan, 78%.
The great communicator.
Yeah. And JFK, 90.
Well, you know why I think I think part of that is because he had so many brilliant ideas that at least up until the Bay of Pigs fiasco and up until the Cuban Missile Crisis, couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
But he had so many things that had he lived and been reelected, you know, that Johnson carried through, all right, civil rights, you know, I mean, and plus the fact that, let's face it, he was cut down in the prime of life. He had a beautiful family. We never had a family like that in the White House. You know, there were so many positives. You know, I mean, they were talking just recently about who would you put as the fifth face on Mount Rushmore. Yeah. And I know that there's been this big push to put Reagan there.
Yeah.
I disagree with that, but it seems more and more people now are saying Kennedy. And in view of the statistics you just shared with us, 90%, it's understandable.
Yeah,
Did you mention what Obama's approval rating was?
Obama, you know, I don't think they mentioned it at this point, but obviously they didn't want him. Well, this is historical. This is historical rating. You know, some distance, some distance out of office.
Well, but Obama's approval rating right now is somewhere between 42 and 45%.
Yeah, Nixon.
It's the lowest it's ever been.
That'll change. I suspect. I hope.
Well, with this you know, I know I really don't want to talk about anything, you know, current.
Yeah.
But with this nuclear option that Harry Reid finally got through.
Yeah.
Needing only 51 votes,
yeah.
I think we'll see quite a bit of Obama's...
He'll get some legislation through, finally, I think, without any obstruction. I think that's what you're driving at.
I think so,
yeah,
yes.
I think so, too. But let me before I leave, let me finally say, I think that what the charisma, I think, that President Kennedy had. I remember a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, I said how moved I was by him, inspired. I think he had something that Reagan had something of, but President Kennedy had it in spades, and that was he had such a charisma to be able to move this country. And, you know, a lot of articles were saying, you know what, after 1,000 days, you know, if he got into office a second time, he would have faced those things that Obama's facing, obstructionism and the violence that's only sprung forward, you know, in the 60s. He would have had to deal with that, and he wouldn't have been as great as, he would have had a tough time with it, and he would have been able to deal with it. You know what? His job, according to some of the articles I read, was to inspire a nation and lead us. And I think that's the power of the word that he had. He was one of the greatest orators. I think he was one of the greatest speakers in our generation.
Well, one of the people on one of the specials said that Kennedy knew that you can move people with words.
Right.
Not so much action, but the way you say something.
Right.
And the only thing I will add to that is, and the one thing he shared with Reagan, is that they both had this ability for self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
They didn't mind being the brunt of a joke that they start.
Right.
Okay. Many people, Nixon, for example, they took these things seriously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Reagan, because of his acting career, maybe, and Kennedy, maybe because he was always so frail growing up, he knew how to make a joke at his own expense.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly. And he had such charm. Well, you know what's the whole day I was waiting to hear somebody mention, by the way, that he was a war hero. PT
right.
109. Remember that movie?
Sure.
No one mentioned it today. I wanted my son to see the movie. I thought I had a copy of it.
Cliff Robertson.
Yeah, Cliff Robertson. And you know what? It was a very moving movie to think that he was one of the great war heroes, as Bush was, Bush number one. I don't know about Reagan. Reagan was in the war, but I don't think he was.
No, Reagan was more or less. He was an actor.
He was an entertainer. Yeah, right.
He was an entertainer. Right. He got a lieutenant's commission, but he was more of a PR person.
Yeah, but this was my point. Is this is what President Kennedy's part of his charisma was. He was a war hero, and it wasn't mentioned at all today. And I thought, wait a minute, that's a missing link here. This is part of his background. Yeah. Anyway, guys, hey, congratulations. Wonderful show tonight. Wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you for your help also in making it so.
Welcome.
You,
all right,
you
have
always
a wonderful,
add something
have
to
a
our
wonderful
show.
Thanksgiving.
Well,
and you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Don. Always has a good word to say. He always has a nice flair about himself. We're going to continue on now with the speech, and let's go with it.
For which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. This much we pledge and more. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do in a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. To those new states whom we welcome to the ranks of the free, we pledge our word that one form of colonial control shall not have passed away, merely to be replaced by a far more iron tyranny. We shall not always expect to find them supporting our view, but we shall always hope to find them strongly supporting their own freedom, and to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside. To those people in the huts and villages of half the globe struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. For whatever period is required, not because the communists